Route 616, your home for all things Marvel main continuity. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Route 616. This is episode 43. Well, as you can see, we've got Bill with us this week, but no Dan yet again. That professional old fuck is not showing up to his gig he doesn't get paid for at all. How terrible of him.
He's probably smart given the caliber of the Giant Man story.
That's actually a fair enough point. Yes, a Giant Man story, which will be opening the episode today, which is a great placement, if I do say so myself. We will be covering said Giant Man story, which is Tales to Astonish number 62, the A story. We will be doing, after that, Tales of Suspense issue number 60, which has an A story for Iron Man and a B story for Captain America. Everybody's favorite at this point, of course. We then have Journey into Mystery, issue number 112, an A story and a B story. And to end this off will be Fantastic Four, number 32. So, with that being said, let us get into the Astonish issue. And have the time of our lives, of course. Because, yeah, that's going to happen.
I'm ready. Yes, I did buy the giant thing of popcorn just as a sight gag.
Nice.
I mean, I'm gonna eat it, but I did buy it just because I thought it would be really funny to have a pillow-sized bag of popcorn.
They'll put in everything they have into the podcast. Stanley's writing this one. We got Carl Burgos on art, inks by George Russo's, Jack Kirby and Chick Stone on the cover, Artie Simic on letters. This is an October 1964 release. Thank fuck it's only 12 pages. And that would take this one 2 whole pages less, and
it was appreciated. And if the art looks 30 years out of date, it's 'cause it is.
Yeah, this
Carl
is a golden
Burgos is notable for being the creator of the original Human Torch.
Arguably, at this point, the better Human Torch.
Yeah. I don't even think that's arguable. Johnny sucks until pretty much, 10 issues post-Crystal.
Damn. Poor Johnny. This story is titled Giant Man versus the Wonderful Wasp. So this, of course, should be very interesting. How the hell are the Wasp and Giant Man going to end up facing each other?
Don't expect it to be good.
Yeah, I noticed that I said interesting and not good. And interesting's still a big stretch, too.
Interesting is really stretching it with Giant Man. Unless you're a connoisseur of the number of ways they can fuck up a dying title.
I don't think I've been interested in this title since probably about the second issue. No.
Yeah. At least the solo Torch stories are occasionally wacky, if nothing else.
Yeah. So, working in his lab, Henry Pym finds a way to speed up the growth of plants. Oh, God. However, his experience... I
realized why I didn't remember what you were talking about with all the Plant Man gags once I was reading this.
However, his experiment soon gets out of control and the plant grows rapidly, causing it to spread around the city. Shrinking down to ant size, Giant Man stops the plant's further growth by destroying its taproot. Except he doesn't do a very good job, as we'll come to learn. The plant continues...
I also don't think that's how plants work.
Yeah, me neither, but you know what? I really didn't have it in me to question. It's like... Giant Man is like that. Giant Man is like those specific coworkers you don't question what they're doing.
Yeah, it's one of those times where you look at it and you're like, I know that's wrong, but I don't have enough knowledge to tell you why you're wrong, so I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, pretty much. The plant continues to grow, in brackets, unknown to Pym. And when 2-bit crook Second Story Sammy escapes from a botched robbery, he ends up landing on one of the plant's leaves and sliding into Pym's lap.
Yes, this is the main villain of the piece.
Yes, it is. Second Story of Sammy. Sammy spies Pym's continued work on his experiment, which causes an explosion that knocks him out. Checking the unconscious body, Sammy learns Giant Man's secret identity and steals his costume, properly deducing that it's the source of Giant Man's size-changing powers. With a rudimentary understanding of how the costume works, Sammy storms out of Pym's lab to start a crime spree, but not before bumping into Janet Van Dyne, who follows him as the Wasp. You know what?
I legit didn't peg on this until right now because this story is bad enough that I was already completely checked out. But that's not even how Giant Man changes size.
Yeah. Like I said, it's one of those things I noticed when I was reading, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let it go.
I read this twice and didn't pick up on that because I didn't care enough.
There was times where this issue had just the tiniest sliver of you could be something if you had somebody that was better at putting stuff together.
Yeah, this story could have been one of the best Giant Man. The actual concept is good, and it gets done way better in Iron Man, not too near far future.
It's also nice to have more of a Wasp-centered issue too, which I feel bad that it ends up sucking, but
yeah, I think that's the only reason it didn't get completely buried by me. Because this one's pretty bad, but I still hated the last one worse, because at least Wasp got to do stuff in this one.
That's a fair enough point. Somebody actually put time into this synopsis, which is incredible. Sammy robs a jewelry store, but not before setting off the alarm and alerting the police. Learning of the robbery, the Wasp tracks Sammy, in brackets who she thinks is Henry Pym, and attacks him inside the jewelry store. At ant size, the Wasp easily defeats the inexperienced Sammy and demands to know where the real Giant Man is. Meanwhile, the plan continues to grow out of control. Pym revives and learns that the Wasp has been trapped in a glass jewelry box. He sends ants to capture the faux Giant Man. The ants carry Sammy back to the lab, and Pym easily dispatches Sammy with one punch. With the aid of his ants, he finds and destroys the giant plant's real taproot, stopping its further growth. The Wasp frees herself and returns home to find the real Giant Man waiting for her. The two heroes return over Second Story Sammy to the police and clear Giant Man's name. That's not really what happens, is it?
Yeah, that's really what happened. They left out the part where Wasp attacks the real Henry Pym because even though she's madly in love with him and has been around him for at least 8 hours a day for 2 years now, she still can't tell what he actually looks like.
I must be confusing it with a different one where the villain ends up getting his memory.
Yeah, you're confusing it with a different one. They just turn him over to the police. Oh, it is mentioned in a throwaway line at the end that Pym gave him some sort of drug that would make him forget. Yeah,
because I thought this was when Pym pretty much changed his personality by giving him a drug and said he was going to be going straight from now on.
Yeah, but he still turned him over to the police, so the synopsis isn't wrong. He still has to serve his time for the crimes he's committed, even though he doesn't remember committing them, and arguably no court could convict him anymore, but
I must not have clicked on the being handed over to the police part still or something when I was reading it. No. Anyways, not that it matters, it's Giant Man.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. We will not see Second Story Sammy again either way, nor will we see the Giant Plant again. Because the Giant Plant arguably was more of a villain than Sammy. It got more pages.
Yeah, but the Giant Plant pissed me off more, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, it was particularly terrible, and something this synopsis overlooked, but I still want to complain about.
Oh,
they sucked the rest of the Avengers into this shit.
Yeah, they did.
We're not going to recap that because it's pointless and just an excuse to try to boost sales by showing the Avengers. But the fact that they had to have actually good heroes talking about a stupid giant growing plant really just added insult to injury.
By the way, they did that and there was only 12 pages in this comic.
Yes, and 8 of them were on the plant.
Oh my goodness, I just We're not moving ahead yet, but I just looked at the synopsis for the Iron Man story, and holy shit.
You took all the long ones, didn't you?
Cap's pretty short.
Yeah, because nothing happens in Cap.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's just move on. 1 star for this one because it was terrible.
Yeah, I was just going to say anyways before we move on, 1 star. This sucks. Did it sound exciting? Because I didn't mean to. That was an accident.
I am going to point out, I'm not on my own here. It is marginally better liked by the site as a whole than the previous issue. The last one was 2.02 average rating. This one has managed to work its way all the way up to a high 2.12.
Oh, fuck.
Probably one person liked it more than the last one.
Somebody gave it like a 4 or something, like, I don't know.
I bet there was one troll that gave it a 5 just to,
it wasn't
be
me.
a dick. Yeah, I know, because it's been higher rated since I read it 5 years ago.
Oh, fuck. Okay, well, let's move on to Tales. The better Tales comic. Tales of Suspense issue number 60, the A story, which is called Suspected of Murder. This is the Iron Man story. Stan Lee and Don Heck is the artist here with some Dick Ayers ink, so the art should look pretty good in this issue.
I think that's one of the big reasons I'm really loving Iron Man right now.
Iron Man has quickly become one of the best titles, I think.
It's the first one that's really showing like ongoing narrative development.
Yeah, Iron Man's got the continuity brewing right now, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I haven't said this on the podcast, but between last issue and this one, I looked up what I considered a turning point to when the comics tend to be more consistently good, and it's the Frightful Four issue of Fantastic Four that we should be hitting in the next 10 or so issues or episodes of this. But the main difference is that's when basically every title has continuity.
Yeah, I may or may not have the Frightful Four episode already planned out. I forget. It's either already planned out or like really close to being already
I
laid
suspect you do.
I probably do
because I don't
laid out
think
a bit ahead.
It's less than a page ahead of where we are now on the site. And so unless we're doing some episodes that are only like 2 comics, I don't see a way that we can't get to it.
Well, there is a lot of Sergeant Fury upcoming, so that might push it back a bit. So
yeah,
we'll
but
see.
That's canon to Sergeant Fury. I think we have 2 Sergeant Furies before it, maybe 3.
Interesting.
No, it's either 1 or 3 because there was 1 lone one and then 2 together that were in that gap.
Fair. Where were we? September 1964 release date. Only 13 pages, surprisingly. It felt like more.
Well, they got to leave room for a full-length Cap story, too. And they're still only like 25-page books.
And yeah, I'll be taking this one as well. So, let us get into it. After his fight against the Black Knight, Tony Stark wakes up from a nightmare and remembers that he can't take his armor off, because he requires the extra power from his belt pods to keep his heart beating. Meanwhile, his employees, Pepper Potts and Happy Hogan, desperately search for the boss all over the city to no avail, so they return to Stark Industries in case Iron Man has news of Stark. When they question Iron Man, Tony realizes he can't tell them he is on vacation because they would search for him in his haunts. He claims that Tony is on a secret business matter that even he doesn't know of. Happy is suspicious and confronts Iron Man, threatening the Avenger. Back in his office, Stark writes a note to calm their fears and signs it. While Iron Man is removing cash from the safe, Happy and Pepper enter the office, accompanied by the police. Pointing out that the safe has not been forced open, Iron Man turns over the note. The police examine the note and find the handwriting oddly shaky. They also notice an absence of fingerprints. I'm glad that the synopsis is really going in on this. In brackets, both because Stark was wearing his armored gloves when writing it. Okay, so yeah, he wrote the note. He didn't take his gloves off, though, so there's no fingerprints or anything. I love that detail in the story.
Yeah,
this is...
though for a genius, he's not that smart, because he has his helmet off at the start.
Yeah.
So he can survive without wearing his helmet. It's just the body armor he needs. Why didn't he just phone them? Caller ID wasn't invented yet. He could literally phone them from his office and be like, hey, yeah, it's Tony. I have to go away for a while. Iron Man's in charge.
Yeah, no, there's great thought in this issue while also being some blaring plot holes, but
that's because of Stan.
Yes.
Or probably Don in this point. Don probably didn't draw him on the phone, so Stan didn't have anything to work with.
Fair. As Iron Man, Tony claims that he's tired of the questioning and flees through the THs and flees through the window. Of course, that doesn't make you seem more suspicious.
Well, the police were going to arrest him, so it was kind of get caught as Iron Man or flee. Like, he was kind of forced into that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but...
Or I suppose option 3, kill the police and probably Happy and Pepper, but I don't think he's taking that one either.
Well, I mean, the title would take a dark turn, but...
That's not for another 20 years when Demon in the Bottle rolls around that we get the dark turn in Iron Man.
The officers try to shoot him down, but the inspector reminds them that they still have no clear proof that Iron Man did anything wrong. Iron Man calls the Avengers to request absence from a meeting, and Thor grants him his request, but not before asking his teammate if he has done anything. Meanwhile, in her luxurious mansion, the Black Widow takes advantage of Stark's disappearance and Iron Man's escape from Stark Industries to send Hawkeye to steal the plans for Stark's newest weapon. The Archer reluctantly agrees and breaks into the factory. When he reaches the door to Stark's office, he's spotted by a police officer. Hawkeye escapes into the room and takes Pepper hostage, forcing her to lead him to Stark's lab. Once in the lab, Hawkeye finds himself surrounded by machines he doesn't understand, and, well, no shit, and no papers or plans at all. Pepper reveals that Stark keeps all of his secret formulas in his head. Hawkeye tries to force Pepper to use a communicator to call for an escape vehicle, but she refuses. The communicator was on nevertheless, and Happy and the police overhear the discussion in Stark's lab. The Avengers, informed of the events unfolding at Stark Industries, call Iron Man and ask him if he wants them to take care of Hawkeye. Damn, this really goes in on detail. Iron Man decides to go alone. It needs it for this
story, though. Like, I haven't heard anything that I'm like, yeah, that could have been omitted.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if any title or story deserves this much detail right now, it probably is this.
And the shocking thing is, despite this much stuff happening, unlike the early stories we'd complain about having all this stuff happen, this one is well paced.
No, this one, that's what I was getting at earlier when I was talking about the fingerprint thing and everything. This is genuine. This story genuinely feels thought out to an extent. Like they actually have an idea of what they're going for, and it's actually paying off. Yeah,
Iron Man's gonna cook for like 2 years.
I'm excited. It's this title. This might be. We might talk more about that later, where this lands actually when I kind of want to cover Fantastic Four before going into that.
Yeah, we'll do a comparison at the end.
But yeah, anyway, Iron Man decides to go alone because the presence of all the Avengers might lead him to hurt Pepper. The Black Widow decides to go to Stark Industries to help her lover, but as soon as she leaves the house, she's captured by Sergei Amkov, the head of the Iron Curtain spy system in America. Back at Stark Industries, Iron Man easily dodges Hawkeye's arrows, burying him in the process. No. And creates distance between the villain and his hostage.
Let's be honest, Hawkeye is a terrible villain for Iron Man.
I added the burying part.
And I was just saying, let's be honest, he's a terrible villain for Iron Man. It's a guy with a bow, even with technological enhancements.
Against the guy in armor, it's
be
kind
able
of stupid.
to face mechanized power armor.
Yeah, no, it's kind of dumb that it's been fine so far, but it is pretty dumb.
Yeah, but the fact that the fights, when they actually happen, are one-sided is not a bad thing. It shouldn't be a fair fight between those two.
Yeah, exactly. Hawkeye breaks a pair of chains holding an expensive rocket, forcing Iron Man to grab it. He tries to trap the Golden Avenger with an arrow equipped with a steel cable, but Iron Man snares the cable before it can entwine him and pulls it, knocking down Hawkeye. The Archer escapes the rooftop by launching a blinding flash arrow at Iron Man. On the roof, Hawkeye launches an arrow with a rope at a plane taken off from LaGuardia Airport, and uses it to carry him across the river. Unbeknownst to him, the plane holds Black Widow and her abductors. The police soon arrive at Stark's lab, but Pepper convinces them not to use their anti-armor guns on Iron Man, pointing out he hasn't been found guilty of any crime. As Iron Man leaves, Pepper claims that, of course the police were going to shoot first, ask questions later, but anyway.
They can't see what color he is. He really needs to have some exposed skin in that armor.
For his own good, you know? Fuck. As Iron Man... you really had to go there.
Yes, I did.
As Iron Man leaves, Pepper claims that while the evidence points at him, she finds something about Iron Man that makes her want to trust him. And possibly kiss him. I added that part too.
You're not wrong.
But anyways, that was Iron Man, and pretty good.
Actually, I absolutely love several elements of this story.
Me too. While saying that, I did only give the story a 3.
Same here.
I feel really bad about not being able to give it a 4, but it just didn't... something about this issue I couldn't give it a 4. It's still... Maybe it's some of the blaring plot holes that phase through, but
I think it's extremely difficult for a single part 12-page story to earn a 4.
Yeah,
it just doesn't have space to do enough.
I think that might have been my problem, is it didn't have the space to... Reading this made me want the Captain America story not to be there.
Reading the Captain America story made me not want the Captain America story to be there.
That was the other part.
Yeah. But, no, the stuff I loved, when Iron Man actually confronted Hawkeye, Hawkeye's not trying to fight Iron Man. Hawkeye's trying to get away. He's just doing stuff to try to get away, which is great, because Hawkeye should not be able to fight Iron Man.
It's very logical.
And I actually really love that they took Natasha back to Russia. They spoilers, they dropped the ball with that one. They don't do anything interesting with it. But the cliffhanger of her being taken back to Russia and Hawkeye presumably finding out makes me really want to know more of that story.
That could have been
That could and should have been the catalyst for Hawkeye's turn to being a hero.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That should have been part of the face turn for them.
Yeah, but I think he shows up... I think they both show up again as villains in like 2 or 3 issues. And it's another good story, but it lost so much potential. Elements. It lost so much potential on what it could have been if they had worked more with the idea of Natasha being taken. But I suppose they didn't really have that option, because at this point, they're both just still throwaway villains. They clearly haven't had the idea of turning them both face yet.
Fair enough, I suppose. Excuse me. Let's go into the B story now, which is called The Army of Assassins Strikes.
Oh, can I offer my synopsis of this quickly before you do yours?
Yeah, I'm sure this will be good.
Do you remember the last Captain America story? It's that.
Yeah. Yeah. I both liked this one slightly more while still not rating it any higher.
I liked this one less just because it was the same thing again.
Let me take that back. I liked an element or two of this more, but I probably liked the whole package less.
I'll agree with that, but I'll talk about what the element I liked more was after you actually synopsize it.
Okay, fair enough. Stan Lee writing this one, of course. Jack Kirby with some actually really beautiful art. It's a shame that it was such a shit story.
Well, I mean, Kirby created Cap. He always has a soft spot
It's his
for him.
passion project. Chick Stone is inking, and Artie Simic is on letters. September 9th, we know that from the last part, and 10 pages for this story. 10 pages too long if you ask me, but what do I know?
That'll be pretty constant until the books get broken. The A story will be 12 to 13 pages, and the B story will be 10.
Okay, now this one is quite a bit shorter than the last, so hang on. In South America, Baron Zemo has his newly gathered army of assassins fight a fake Captain America for one final test before sending them to battle against the real one. While in the United States, Captain America and Rick Jones, don't forget, Rick Jones is kind of Cap's sidekick, are on site for Cap to put on a private exhibition of Cap's athletic prowess to encourage young people to be physically fit. Although they planned a mock battle, the actors helping Cap have been replaced by the Baron's army of assassins who attack Cap. With the help of Rick Jones, Cap manages to fight off the army of assassins. Later, Baron Zemo checks in with his video screen to see if his assassins have defeated Cap. But as soon as he turns the TV on, he sees Cap telling Zemo that Zemo has failed and that he's a coward for not battling him face to face. Angered by Cap's taunts, Zemo blasts the screen. With the assassins taken away by the authorities, Cap vows to Rick that he will someday stop Baron Zemo. The end.
And nothing was omitted from that summary.
No, that was a pretty great summary, to be honest.
Okay, the one thing I liked more than the last time was that they had Zemo in it.
That's fair. I was going to shout out Zemo, too.
These guys had a little more motivation than our previous group of random guys for Cap to beat up.
It's a tad bit of continuity, which helps, but like it's still just so shit. At the other part, I would like to say, and you might disagree with me here, I genuinely think the problem isn't... Well, okay. So, I think that Cap's characterization is relatively really good, but this everything around him and all the villains and everything around him has been absolute shit. But his characterization has been pretty good. At least in this one, I noticed more that I was kind of like, this feels like Captain America in terms of his dialogue and stuff.
I'll agree with that. My only issue is that nothing happens in these stories right now.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, it's 10 pages, but also we've just
read Iron Man
things.
that only had 3 more pages and managed to tell a banger of a story.
I was going to say that we've seen better things done with as many or less pages. We have 8-page Doctor Strange stories that are better. We have some 5-page Thors that have been better than this. So
yeah, this is.
We haven't had any Watcher stories that were better than this.
Fuck, we're never going to get a good Watcher story. I hate
I had to mention that. Pop myself.
We haven't had any Wasp stories that were better than this either. I went there.
There was one that was about on par. That wasn't really worse than this. But anyways, I will say I gave this one a 2. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it.
I gave it 2 too. It's not bad. I didn't even have a bad time reading it. I just didn't care. Well, I mean, it's a fun fight. It's just Captain America throwing guys around for 8 pages.
Yeah, this story lost me a bit near the start when it was like, oh, Cap's having an exhibition and that's how we're getting to it's like, okay, cool. I didn't like that part.
I think I was more forgiving of that because I've read the 1940s stories, and he used to do that. Like, in Captain America, the First Avenger, the USO shows don't come out of nowhere. He was never just to be used as a propaganda tool the way he was in the movie, because he was stationed with the troops. But
I think that there was more lead up to
USO shows and stuff, so I think it was a callback to that.
I think if there was more time for it to breathe, I would have been fine with it. I think that the fact that it was just thrown right into it is what bugged me. But
Yeah.
anyways.
I warned you,
I
Cap
don't-
won't be good for a while.
You did, and I was really
It'll
hoping
have a
I'd
couple-
feel
it-
otherwise.
Yeah, there's only a couple of good stories before he comes back to the present, and those stories are from 1941 that are just rewritten. Because there's like 3 good stories, and they were... The first 2 were definitely straight-up retellings. And I can't remember if Red Skull's origin actually happened in the 40s, but there's also one where he gets told Red Skull's origin. And I know what they do with it afterwards isn't the same as it was in the 40s, but those parts aren't good either. It's just the part where Red Skull tells his origin.
Well, I think on that note, I don't think I have anything else to say about that, Cap. I will say I'm not
nothing to
really
say about it
excited to
'cause
read any
nothing
more
happened.
Cap. Yeah, fair enough.
Don't worry,
Let's
there's
move on
only
to
2
Journey-
more until he goes back to the past.
Okay. That
One where he fights a big racist character,
Oh yeah, you told me.
and
about that.
one where he fights a whole bunch of guys again.
Oh fuck.
With
me.
an even more tenuous premise.
Oh god. Okay. I'm really not excited for the next couple stories, but anyways,
I think
Journey
all
in
the
Mid-
Cap are clumped together too.
They are, because it's literally the next one that I hadn't planned out yet. They literally clump suspense together, and some maybe even some Astonish with it too.
Yeah, well, we're starting to get into the longer form storytelling.
Yeah, true. Journey to Mystery number 112, the A story. This one's titled "The Mighty Thor Battles the Incredible Hulk."
Is this where I'm taking over on telling?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll get the wiki up.
we're in the second half now. Okay, I'll say this stuff really slowly. This one is written by Stan the Man Lee, art by Jack Kirby. Chick Stone is on inks. Chick Stone, Jack Kirby doing the cover, of course, too. Sam Rosen on letters. November 1964 release date. This first story is 16 pages. And if you were using the site we're using, which of course we haven't really shouted it out in a while, so it's complete more of a reading order, you would notice that this, of course, you would notice from the cover too, but this of course has a superhero fight in it, and also this is technically a retcon slash a bit of a flashback issue technically too. But
Yeah.
it doesn't really call it a flashback issue. It's just...
It's not a flashback because the framing is in the present.
Yeah, it technically just happened in continuity, so it's not really a flashback.
If it was,
It's just a
all
retelling.
if it was all the fight with Hulk, it would be a flashback. But because he's telling it in the present, that's how they get out of it being a flashback.
Fair enough. And is the you still need some time?
No,
or you
I've got it up.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, when flying through the city, Thor happens upon 2 groups of children arguing over who is the stronger between Thor and the Hulk. I mean, they could just go and watch Ragnarok, but then we wouldn't have much of a comic. Dan's not here, so I've got to take the bad out of context jokes.
Fair.
Interested in the debate, Thor lands to see what all the commotion is about, and the children ask him if he knows who is the stronger of the 2. Thor recounts for them his last encounter with the Hulk. However, he goes into a part of the story that was not previously recorded. In Thor's recounting of the events, he and Hulk are separated from the Avengers and Submariner during their battle. This is a flashback to the Avengers 3. It's not noted in here, but if you're trying to remember when that happened, that's when it was. In Thor's recounting of the events, he and Hulk are separated from the Avengers and Submariner during their battle. Realizing Hulk's strength, Thor asks Odin to lift the enchantment that forces Thor to change to Donald Blake after being kept from his hammer for 60 seconds, so he can pit his strength against the Hulk. Odin grants Thor's wish, giving him 5 minutes free of the enchantment. Okay, that's a little misleading. Thor only wanted 5 minutes free of the enchantment. It's not like Odin's just being a dick and is like, yeah, you gotta kill him in 5 seconds or you're done.
Yeah, this is one of the few times Odin isn't being a dick. So,
Yeah.
I mean, give him a chance here.
Yeah, I gotta give him his credit when he gets it. Usually he's only earning it for fantastic hats.
Yeah, fair.
That's a
we
running
can give him
joke on the site that Odin has fantastic cats.
we can point out here because he does have a fantastic cat here.
He always does. Kirby really goes for it when he draws Odin.
He does.
However, Thor's hammer is now vulnerable to damage and can be picked up by anybody. So they're starting to play with the nature of the enchantment on Thor's hammer at this point. It's no longer just really heavy unless it's Tales of Asgard and they're telling the story of how Thor came to his powers. Spoilers for what's coming up. Hulk attempts to destroy the hammer, keeping Thor on the defensive during the battle. During their combat, the integrity of the cavern is compromised, and the cave-in covers Hulk with tons of rock. Soon, the 5 minutes Odin granted Thor expire. Thor smashes through the rubble to continue the fight, but discovers the Hulk has escaped. Thor attempts to follow Hulk, but cannot pick up the trail. The test to see who is the strongest is inconclusive. Thor rejoins his comrade and battles Namor until Hulk arrives again. Thor stops his story because we're picking back up at what was shown in Avengers, and explains that he has no proof that he is stronger than Hulk. Therefore, he won't make such a claim and flies off. Elsewhere, Hulk turns his thoughts to Thor as well, wondering when next they'll clash. And that's the end of the story.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, it seems thin when you read the summary, but this is actually a good superhero fight.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars.
So did I.
It's nothing spectacular. I almost feel bad putting this on the same level as the Iron Man, because the Iron Man I still kind of put above this Thor, but...
Oh, same here.
But part of the issue with that is we can't do half stars either, because I probably would have given it a 3.5 earlier if I could have. But
yeah, and I mean,
like,
really, with my ratings, probably 80% of all my ratings are going to be 3s, because that just means it's a good comic book that doesn't do anything amazing.
3 is the average, just we liked it, really.
Yeah.
So.
Like, I don't feel bad about not giving Iron Man a 4, because I didn't walk away from it like, that was amazing or anything.
It wasn't a life-changing experience.
Well, that's a 5. Like, 4 is just like,
yeah.
I want to read this again. 3 is just a good comic, and then, like...
It's a good comic, but I probably wouldn't read it again.
Yeah, and 2 is like, it didn't actively offend me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, pretty good, really. It's interesting. I want to note here, especially because how wildly Thor's character changes as time goes along, because this right here, at this point in this series, Thor is a pretty humble and different character to what he becomes in being more arrogant and egocentric as time goes along. But that also, he then also kind of goes through his arc where he gets humbled again, and like he kind of becomes more like this again. But it's like, it's interesting to see at this stage that he is a very humble Thor.
He's both humble but also incredibly arrogant, because like he throws away the enchantment on the hammer to fist fight the most powerful being on Earth.
It almost, like, he is quite a bit, like, it almost feels like he's almost too humble in this issue. Like, he should have made, like, a comment, like, oh, I'm sure I would have beat him or something. I don't know. Like, this almost felt like Thor wouldn't have been so,
Even when he's arrogant, though, he's always honest.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
He thought he could take the Hulk in a fist fight. It was just inconclusive, and he's not going to claim glory he doesn't need because he has plenty of glory he's earned on his own. That's
fair
how
enough.
I read it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I feel like this comic also is a product of running up against deadlines. Like, the whole thing's good, but I feel like maybe Jack had some writer's block or something, and they were getting close, and he's like, fuck it, I'll just do more of the Hulk fight.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. It doesn't really fit continuity. It's just kind of there. Like, he just tells some children a story.
Yeah, it's kind of jammed in there a little bit, but it works. It's not bad.
I like this issue. It's just a weird issue.
Yeah, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. But it's whatever.
In the next issue of Thor, they're back to, like, telling this big overarching story that they're starting to work on.
Yeah.
Because they're building towards a massive Thor run.
Well,
with the Absorbing Man.
Oh. Well, that should be interesting. I like me some Absorbing Man.
He's very good in that story, I'll say that.
Well, I'm glad to hear. He's
one of my favorite villains that I don't quite consider a boy just because he's too prominent.
Yeah, probably the same thing for me, and he's had some pretty cool roles in some recent comics you haven't read too. So, yeah, the Black Bolt comic I've raved about before he's in, and that's really good.
Nice.
But anyways, the B story of Journey in the Mystery 112 we will get into now. This one's titled The Coming of Loki. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Vincent Coletta's on inks here. Artie Smith on letters. 5-page story. And of course, this is a flashback. Well, origin story / flashback.
Yeah.
And we will give Bill this one as well.
This will be quick.
It will.
Odin and his army battle the warriors of Jotunheim, where he kills their leader, Laufey, and adopts Laufey's son, Loki, as one of his own following their victory in battle. I don't think that's right. I don't remember, but I think Laufey lives.
No. They say
did he
he's
actually
dead.
kill him?
Yeah, they say he's slain in battle here.
Okay, because yeah, he does recur. Maybe it's in a flashback. Because he comes back in Thor number 8 from 2007. Yeah, you're probably right. Because that's what I was going on with him not actually dying, is that I knew he came back.
Yeah, they definitely retcon it. I was like, oh, they kill him here? Because I knew he came back. Okay. I knew he was... he's a big figure later in more modern Thor.
Yeah, I've read a lot of those Thors. That's why I'm like, he can't actually die. That must be wrong. But I guess it's
completely retconned. Yeah, no, it is.
Okay, so Laufey's actually dead.
He is dead at this point, yes.
And the reason that summary's so short is because like 70% of this comic is Odin killing Laufey.
Filler / action.
I liked this one. Like, I really enjoyed it. But
I liked this one, but I only... This one almost barely got... This one mainly got the 3, and I mainly liked it just because the Tales of Asgard's moving in the right direction and giving us Loki origin stuff. And the ending really did make this, in my opinion. I loved the last page and a half.
Yeah, same here.
Great.
I gave it 3 as well. Mine was more of a solid 3 than yours.
Yeah,
because
probably.
Even though the first half was just a fight, it was pretty fun. It was cool seeing Odin fighting Laufey.
Part of my issue might have been another heavy fight story after the previous heavy fight story, but I don't know.
Yeah, I tried to avoid holding that against stories.
I don't think I really let it affect me too much, but if I was looking back on it, that could have subliminally affected me a little bit.
Possibly. I'm sure that has on times with me. I mean, hell, I admitted to it happening earlier with well, I suppose that's literally in the same series, but I admitted to it happening earlier with Captain America, where because it was so similar to the previous one, it got knocked down a star.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to the main event of this podcast, literally, because the thumbnail spotlight is a character in this comic. Fantastic Four number 32, titled Death of a Hero. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, of course, back at it again. The main number 1 title at Marvel. Well, is it really, though?
Yeah.
Not at this point. Well,
no, I would say at this point...
At this point, it's becoming that number 1 title.
It's always been the anchor comic for their run. Like, even when it was bad,
it is, yes.
They had Johnny Storm spun off from it. Spider-Man doesn't have a spin-off character.
Yeah, I mean, this is the center of the Marvel Universe comics. Is it necessarily the number 1 in a way? Technically, not really. Spider-Man is kind of number 1.
It's never my favorite comic. Even when it's really good, I generally enjoyed Spider-Man more.
Yeah. But this
and probably Iron Man too at that point, because Iron Man's doing some good stuff.
Yeah, this genuinely is. This is getting close to starting the really good stretch of.
I think we're like 6 issues away from the really good run, and none of those 6 are bad issues. Like they're just not special.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not first appearance after first appearance. It's a big.
Yeah, it's not world building constantly.
Yeah, exactly. Though speaking of consequences and continuity, this is certainly an issue for that. Sam Rosenthal letters, September 1964, release date, 21-page story. And Bill will take us through this final comic of the week.
All right. Reed Richards has devised yet another means of changing the Thing back to his human form. Guess. The initial test appears to work, and they have 24 hours to determine if the transformation is a success, or else it will become permanent. Meanwhile, a beam from deep space enters Earth's atmosphere and strikes a deserted island, freeing a being trapped below. Back at the Baxter Building, Ben wakes up from his transformation and attacks his friends. The side effects of the transformation has stricken Ben with amnesia, and he lashes out at the other members of the Fantastic Four and Alicia. With no other choice, the Fantastic Four knock Ben out, and Reed reverses the process before it can become permanent. Although Ben's mind is restored, he is upset at yet another failure to change him back to normal. That actually is somewhat relevant later, not in this issue.
I loved that stretch of this comic.
So did I, actually, but that's building into one of my favorite story arcs in Fantastic Four that's coming up.
That was some fucking brilliant characterization going on between what was going on with Ben and Reed's willingness to let himself look like not they don't the big brain here. That he is.
They don't say it here, but they let Ben think that the experiment was just a complete failure, so he doesn't feel guilty about the way he acted.
Yeah, and it's really good. It's really great characterization, and it's a great reminder that Reed Richards isn't always a dick, just 90% of the time.
Yeah, it's a rare case where he's actually sympathetic.
Like, I love when they actually explore that side of Reed that should be more prominent, because it's like, it's his best fucking pal that he accidentally, he thinks he made into this monster. Like,
yeah, most of the reason he is a huge dick is because he feels guilty.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the story, because we're only one paragraph into the summary. At Rikers Island Prison, which is coincidentally just for pre-trial confinement, so I'm not sure why this character is actually there, but... At Rikers Island Prison, Franklin Storm's cell is invaded by the mysterious being. Before he can react, Franklin is teleported away and the intruder takes his form. The next morning, Sue and Johnny visit the warden's office, where Sue finally reveals the truth about their father. 20 years ago, he and their mother were involved in a car accident. Surgery proved futile, and Franklin was unable to save Mary's life. Distraught by his wife's death, Franklin became addicted to gambling, racking up a massive debt. When a mobster came looking for him to pay up, he got into a scuffle, and the mobster's gun went off, killing him. Still grieving over the death of his wife and ashamed of what he had become, Franklin Storm said nothing in his own defense and was sentenced to prison for manslaughter. With this story out in the open, Sue and Johnny visit the man they think is their father to inform him that they are going to try to get him paroled early. However, the imposter tells them that he won't have to wait that long, and surprises them when he suddenly turns invisible and busts through the prison wall and escapes. As the rest of the Fantastic Four are summoned, Franklin, in quotes, assumes a costumed form and calls himself the Invincible Man. With the powers of the Fantastic Four, he terrorizes the people of New York. Because they believe their foe is Johnny and Sue's father, the Fantastic Four hold back and are easily defeated. Seeing the Invincible Man escape so easily makes the general public believe that they are going soft on him due to his family relation to the group. However, Reed runs some tests and suddenly deduces the identity of the Invincible Man. Reed constructs a hyperwave transmitter and confronts the Invincible Man and explains that he has contacted his homeworld and that he knows he is not Franklin Storm. With his cover blown, the Mystery Man reveals his true form, the Super Skrull. With their plans foiled again, the Skrull Emperor teleports the Super Skrull away. On the way back to the Baxter Building, Reed explains how he used his devices to deduce the identity of the attacker. He prepares a weapon and threatens to destroy the Skrull homeworld if they do not return Franklin Storm to them. Franklin is returned to Earth, but there is a bomb planted on him. Not wishing to harm his family, Franklin rolls over and smothers the blast and is fatally wounded. Before he dies, Franklin tells his children that he is proud of them. When the authorities arrive, they learn how Storm sacrificed his life. And that's the end.
The Death of a Hero.
Yep. Good title for this one.
Really, really, really good.
Very good.
I gave this a 4.
I gave it a 3 mostly because I deduced that it was the Super Skrull the instant he came out of the volcano.
Well, I mean, I did too, but I really tried not to let that affect the story, but I understand there was some... Well, I mean, a lot of people in the 60s actually did get tricked by this, let's just be honest. So.
Yeah, I don't fault anyone for giving it more. It just didn't transcend into the special stage for me because I knew who he was.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say a 4 is even special to me. But I think this is... to me, this was a step above just the basic, I like this. I really liked a good portion of this. Like I pointed out earlier, the characterization earlier was fantastic. There was a lot of good characterization in this, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily love when Reed just decides to be a dick again, but some of it is justified, to be fair.
That is also in character for Reed. We don't like that element of his personality, but he does it all the time.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of think this guy might be bipolar or something, but...
It's very possible. One thing that I'm really impressed with this comic...
They should make that a story.
They had the balls to kill Franklin.
Yeah, that was really good.
Not fake out, not he's saved by surgery. They actually killed what appeared to be a main character in the 1960s on panel. Like, he's not off page and they say, oh no, he's dead. They showed him dying.
Yeah, no, they did. It's actually kind of surprising they go as far as they do with it, which is really cool.
The only other point that I found got close was the suicide in Daredevil 2, and that one was more impactful for us than it would have been for initial readers, because when I reread it, I noticed that the Pool of Blood was a recolor from when they re-released it on Marvel, and originally that wasn't there, so...
Damn.
Yeah, because when I first read... That's why I didn't bring it up in the podcast when we covered that issue. Because when I first read it, I'm like, holy crap, they went dark with this one. But when I reread it, I realized that was an element of modernizing the story.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I liked this one, just clearly not as much as you.
Apparently. I honestly thought you'd be closer with me on this one, but I guess not.
Fantastic Four has an uphill battle for me to begin with because I don't like the team.
That's true. I guess I do at a base aspect, I think, could fairly say I kind of enjoy Fantastic Four a little more than you at their core.
I like to think, that's really it. I don't like Reed, I don't have any opinion on Sue, and I don't like Johnny. So really, unless Thing is being awesome for the entire book, it's fighting an uphill battle.
I'm a huge Sumer, but I've read a lot of more modern stuff too.
I'll be honest, I've never read a comic where she did anything.
Yeah, see, that's probably the difference.
I don't dislike her. I just, she's never useful. She's just there to have a woman on the team. And that's because I haven't read a lot of modern Fantastic Four because I don't like the team, so I stopped reading them. And therefore, I don't see the good stuff she does, but I'd rather read about Jan any day.
Yeah, at this point, I'd rather
read
Jan.
about Sue because she's actually on panel.
Well, fair.
But overall, like, much rather read her or even Jean Grey, who is another person who's just there to be a woman at this point and never actually does anything useful.
Yeah, Jean Grey.
Right now, the female characters are really being held back by 60s sexism.
Yeah, it's pretty bad when Betty Brant is the most spotlighted female character, if you think about it.
That's a good point.
It really is, and I hate that I had to say that out loud.
Because Betty's actually great at this point.
Betty, I've been shocked by how enjoyable Betty's
when she first showed up, I'm like, yeah, let's get to Gwen. And then I was kind of disappointed with how fast they transitioned to Gwen, because I was really enjoying that she had, like, depth to her character and being conflicted about the relationship and stuff.
Yeah, no, it's surprisingly been good. I guess circling back to what I was hinting at earlier, in terms of, like, the titles and what I think, Iron Man's quickly moving up, and it might be in my top 3 now.
It is for me.
If it's not, it's about to be.
At this point, I would say for me, it's Spider-Man, Strange, then Iron Man.
Interesting.
Because, like, this is a good Fantastic Four, but overall, I haven't been loving Fantastic Four at this point.
Sergeant Fury was in danger with that one issue I didn't love, but the other issue after it pulled it back. So right now, for me, it's probably... I meant to do an official ratings for this episode, but I'll end up doing it at some point. But I think right now I'm sitting at, if I have to reflect, like, this... I really enjoyed this Fantastic Four, but otherwise... It's been on a little bit of a weaker stretch, so I think right now I would say it's probably Spider-Man. I think I'm still going to let Sergeant Fury have the number 2 for now, but it almost lost it, and then I'll probably go Iron Man, then Fantastic Four. And Iron Man will probably bump Sergeant Fury unless Sergeant Fury consistently gets back to cooking as I thought it was before.
Yeah, for me, I think Fury just suffers a little bit from not being a superhero book. I read other types of comics, but my favorite are the superhero ones. So they have a leg up on anything else, just in general.
I think for me, part of what I think for me, it partly helps that, yes, it's obviously a superhero comic hidden as a war comic, but it's still a war comic to an extent. So it is different enough that it helps its case, I think.
Yeah, it's funny because that's the exact thing that's hurting its case for me. It's like...
That's where we differentiate.
Yeah, it's not committing enough to being a superhero comic.
Yeah.
Fury will be breaking into that... Spoiler, Fury will be breaking into that top 3, or at least top 5 for me pretty soon, but not in Sergeant Fury form.
Fair enough.
Because I
run.
really liked Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'm looking forward to it a lot.
It had one bad arc, and everything else I liked.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, I think let's tease what's coming next week. We'll see if we have Dan or not. We have no clue yet.
Neither does he. It's kind of dependent on how often his boss wants him.
Exactly. So we are going to do Fantastic Four number 33, which is Submariner Return.
This is actually both an important and quite a good book.
That's good to hear. Then we have... you know what? I'm going to pull up a different page while I'm doing this. We then have Tales to Astonish, number 63, the A story. I'm sure this should be good. This one's titled The Gangster and the Giant.
Oof, this one's terrible.
Then we have X-Men issue number 8. Oh, this is the Unis issue I've not been looking forward to. I don't even know what it's about, but it just doesn't sound good.
It's got a decent rating on the site. I personally
that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, I personally find Unis to be painfully boring, and I don't get why anyone liked this book.
Okay.
But,
see, that's the vibes I was getting from it, so I'm kind of worried now.
But the rating makes me think that I might be a bit of an outlier. I mean, I'm bracketing, because it's a 2.84 and I gave it a 2, so I'm bracketing where it is on the site, but more people liked it than I did.
I thought it was like higher than the 3 with the average of how you were talking. That's not even that crazy. But I get
No,
what
it's
you're
just
getting
like most people gave it a 3, and I don't see how.
Yeah, fair. Then we go into Daredevil number 5. It feels like it's been forever since we've read a Daredevil issue. Don't
worry, it'll feel like forever when you're reading this one, too.
Yeah, maybe maybe it could have been longer. We meet the masked matador. Oh boy, okay.
I think he only shows up once again.
Oh, yep, that's good. Then we go back to some more Giant Man because this placement is evil. And we go into issue number 64, which sees a Tuma strike. And
no, he does come back. I went ahead to Smash to see if he actually has more appearances.
I'm really sad when I look at this average rating because it has Namor and a Tuma in it and has a 2.10. 2.10, I mean.
Yeah, you remember when I was joking about how a villain would become overused on his second appearance? That's the Tuma.
I don't want to talk about it.
Because that's why the Fantastic Four is both important and good. Although, if you feel better, it doesn't have Namor in it.
Oh, I thought I read that Namor was...
Nope. Giant Man, the Wasp, and the Tuma are the only appearances, and then we get Atlanteans just because a Tuma is one.
Maybe it's a future one that I was thinking of.
This one would be better if Namor was in it.
Fair. And then to end the episode off, we will end it with Avengers number 10, which sees the Avengers break up. Of course.
At least the first and last stories aren't terrible.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mediocre week, if we're being honest, but it is what it is. We're going to have those every so often.
Yeah. We get some good stuff coming up week after, though.
We do.
Just looking at what's peeking onto the page.
Yeah. So, on that note, join us next week for that hopefully not as mediocre as it seems episode, but probably will be.
It should be a great episode to watch. Because
they don't feel any better for what I have to read.
They don't have to read this stuff. They just have to watch us be angry about it.
When you say things like that, I get concerned.
Those comics are terrible. I'm not going to give you false hope. Those comics are terrible.
I wish you would sometime.
The second appearance of Atuma is fantastic. You will love it.
No, okay. Come on now. Now you're just taking it too far in the other direction. Fuck. Anyway, guys, we're going to start wrapping this up. If you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, even share if you would like to. We are also available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and of course Spotify. And if you are listening to this on Spotify, let us know why Second Story Sammy is your new favorite villain. And you guys, I can't take myself seriously when saying that. Anyway, guys, we will see you all in the next episode. We might see Dan too, who knows? And peace out.
I hope he can make it for that one.
Me too.
Have a good one.
Especially for the Atuma story.
That's the